Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to what's on sale at the supermarket. So I got these chicken breasts, skinless, boneless chicken breasts on sale at the supermarket probably about 3 weeks ago. They were half price, bought them, shoved them in the freezer or bunched them in the freezer, and we cooked something at that time with the chicken breasts. And it was a quick pan fry, and then we made a white wine cream sauce with sun-dried tomatoes. And I mentioned at the time, you could do the same thing with cognac or brandy. And so when I was at the grocery store today, what was on sale, they had a couple of packages of mushrooms. These are enoki mushrooms and button mushrooms. They were like 70% off. Buy them today, last chance. So I bought them. And if you've spent any time here, you know that I very much talk about cooking as knowing methods rather than recipes. And so this method of a fast fry making a pan sauce works really well in that you can swap out the ingredients. So I'm using chicken, but this could just as easily be a pork chop. Or, those fast fry steaks, you see them, they're cut really thin and then they're mechanically, they've got holes in them, so they've been tenderized mechanically. Relatively inexpensive, quick to cook, and would work really well in this type of sauce. And instead of using sun-dried tomatoes, I'm going to use the mushrooms. And instead of using white wine, because I didn't have a bottle of open white wine today to use, but I've got some cognac from the Cocktails After Dark show that we do on Wednesdays. So it's one of those things where you can take the method and completely adapt it to what you've got in your fridge or in your pantry on that day. And that sort of cooking, for me, I learned when Julie and I, 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, when, we first got married, we were broke. And we had to cook this way because we just didn't have any money. And then I continued to cook this way because I find that I really like the food and I like the creativity that comes along with it. So, you know the drill. Salt, pepper, flour, and then you just kind of toss the chicken breasts in it, or the meat, or the steak, or the pork chop, or whatever you're cooking. You don't have to coat it really well. You just need a thin coating of flour on the outside. So I've got a cast iron pan that's heating up here, and I'm going to hit that with some oil. And once the oil is shimmering, same as last time, we're going to do the thickest one first. Now you could 100%, if it's your thing, if you wanted to take the extra step, you could cut them in half, pound them out so that they're all the same thickness, and then go through the process of flour, maybe even egg, and then panko, and fry them if that's what you wanted. If you're looking at a quick weeknight meal, this is probably the easiest way to do it. Just knowing that it's going to take a little bit longer to cook the chicken, you're going to have to do the thickest one first and then add the rest so that they all cook at the same time. But allowing them to fry at like a medium-high heat, keeping an eye on them, you can then do all of your other mise en place and chop up your onion. I've got shallots here, but this could easily be any kind of onion, and it would also give you an opportunity to slice up your mushrooms, and I've just sort of quartered these little mushrooms. Left the enoki whole, though. This is also a preparation where you really do want to cook the chicken 90-95% of the way through. Same if you were doing pork chops or a steak, because the sauce at the end is just a light warming. If you only cook these halfway, you wouldn't cook them enough in the sauce later. So you want them all the way through. You just watch your heat, do the other things, come back to the heat, and eventually, once I get them all in the pan, I will put the lid on, lower the heat a little bit, and let them cook all the way through without really frying them too much on the outside or burning the outside. Okay, I can put the other two in at this point. Okay, these are cooked. So I'm going to pull them out and set them aside. And into this pan, I'm going to put the shallots. We'll just stir those around. Now, when you took the whatever meat you're using, chicken, beef, or pork, out, there should be a little bit of oil in the bottom. If there isn't a little bit of oil or fat or grease in the bottom of the pan, add some before you put the shallots in. Could be regular onions. Doesn't have to be shallots. I just always happen to have them on hand. Next in are the mushrooms. And now we want to fry these down until the mushrooms have lost most of their water. Okay, the mushrooms have cooked down. They're looking really good. Now, I'm going to put in some cognac. Could be brandy. Brandy and cognac, essentially the same thing. I'm going to glug in a little bit. I'm going to stir that around. It's bubbling, boiling really nicely. Turn out the lights because I'm going to flambe it. Of course, if you're going to flambe, take all of the safety precautions. I've got the lid close by. I've got a fire extinguisher right here under the counter. If you don't want to flambe, don't. We made this dish, essentially the same dish, same method, before with white wine. Use the white wine, just don't flambe it. Don't have cognac or brandy, you don't like cognac or brandy, but you like whiskey or rum or tequila, use whiskey, rum, or tequila. Those will bring interesting flavors to this dish. Do the same sort of thing, flambe it off. That flambe gets rid of most of the alcohol, not all of it, and it brings caramely flavors to the whole thing, which are really nice. And again, if you don't want to cook with alcohol or wine, increase the amount of chicken stock that you're going to put in next, and then use a tablespoon or so of vinegar to give a little bit of acid, and acid will balance it out and sort of release some of those flavors that the alcohol is releasing. Next in, I've got some red pepper flakes. I'm going to put in some dry mustard this time. I really like adding a little bit of dry mustard and cooking with that. So just a little spoonful dry mustard. We'll stir that in. Throw in some heavy cream, 35% whipping cream. About the same amount of cream as you put in chicken stock. Maybe a little bit more. And we'll stir this together. It's just on a light simmer. If you want this sauce a little bit thicker, simmer it down a little bit more before you put the chicken in. I like it a little bit looser like this, and once you put the chicken in, put the lid on and let it cook for another 10 minutes. It will come together to the right consistency for me. So, chicken goes back in, and of course, whatever juice is on the plate. This is a low simmer, and put the lid on about 10 minutes. Okay, this looks like it's done. The lid is very hot. And
hey, Glenn.
Out with a chicken cutlet.
Hey, friends. Chicken. Oh, we got knives and forks. You're already ready.
Got that.
I think I had this last time. It looks very similar. It looks very familiar. Like we've eaten this recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's method over recipe. It is essentially the same thing that I did with the last chicken. Bought a whole bunch of chicken on sale. Except this time, instead of using sun-dried tomatoes, I used mushrooms.
Okay.
And instead of using white wine, I put in cognac and flambéed it.
Ooh.
So
fried steaks are really good that way, too.
Exactly.
Little cream, little...
Exactly. I mean, this method works for a whole bunch of different types of proteins, of meats. You could do it this way. And it's the method of making that sauce. And just use whatever liquids you have on hand. And they're all going to give a slightly different flavor.
I'm only a little bit concerned about how hot it is.
It's gonna
the
be
top
hot.
is nice and crispy, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've eaten this a million times in various forms. And it's always just whatever I've got in the fridge or what was on sale at the grocery store. And you put it together using
Moist,
this method.
it's got that creaminess.
Yeah. There's enough sauce here that you could do some pasta, some plain pasta, in the bottom of a bowl. Spoon the sauce in, coat the pasta, slice the chicken, lay it on top, and you've got a more elegant meal. But of course, mashed potatoes, boiled potatoes, any kind of
Cauliflower.
vegetable,
Yeah.
cauliflower, whatever you've got on the side, it's going to be fantastic. Comes together really quickly. It's simple, but yet it does have sort of an elegant feel for a Tuesday night. Well, no, it's Thursday night, for a Thursday night dinner.
And there's usually leftover wine, or in
yeah,
this case, I guess.
There was no wine.
Cognac.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
You
why I
drink
chose.
cognac with supper. That seems kind
No,
of
it's a little. That's a little over the top.
That seems a little weird.
Yeah. So learn the method, and then adapt the method to what's on sale at the grocery store, and you can always have a great meal. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.